You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
It's Wednesday night, time for the Paranormal Experience radio show with host Kat Hobson. Kick back, relax, and get ready to learn. Welcome to the show. Now, here's Kat.
Hello there and welcome to Paranormal Experience Radio. I am so very excited to be hosting this show tonight. I do want to, before we get started, reach out to the people in Florida, especially those people who are still there who did not evacuate. I'm so sorry. I can't say enough how terrible that is, because I know when my town was hit by Ivan, I didn't even live there and it was hideous. Please know that we continue to hold you in our prayers. We will continue to get you the things that you need. Let people help you. People want to help you. So we love you. We're praying for you, and we're sending y'all everything we can to get you taken care of. That being said, I am so excited. I have a wonderful guest tonight. It's Ginette Lucas. She is, a forensic psychic. She aids in all kinds of work. She is very diverse. She is also a dowser. And she uses dowsing with spirit as well, and locating people who are damaged. She also is an author. She is a speaker, and she is a pretty fascinating person from all that I've gathered, and I'm excited to have this conversation so I can learn more. Ginette, welcome to Paranormal Experience. How long have you known that you were a psychic to start things off? Did you find this as a child? Did you find it as you matured?
I found out when I was a kid. My father used to take us for drives in the car. I'm one of 5, and he would take us for drives and say, lay down on the bottom of the car, and in a station wagon, of course. So you're laying down like a little kid. So I was about 5 years old, and he said, tell me what you see. So we're going to drive through neighborhoods, and you tell me what you're going to see. And you couldn't look out the window, and you had to say, I feel like we're in a wealthier neighborhood. I feel like we're in the poorer neighborhood. I feel like we're in the ghetto. I feel like and he goes, so he'll say, what's the name of the street you're on? So it was like a constant testing. And he was always worried one of us was going to be abducted, because there's 5 of us. And so that's the beginning of the beginning. Then it moved on from there. Then I found out about dowsing at about age 7. So that's just the scratching the surface for a kid. You don't have to do that. There are other angles now that I'm older, what I do with my kids. And I just tell people, you can use your dreams, or you can do the same thing. Take a drive and say, what do you feel? What do you sense? And I loved it, but every child is different in development, and there you have it.
Well, I find it interesting. Why was he so concerned about abduction?
Well, I lived right down the street from D.C., and every time we turned around, it was, a kid was being abducted, or an adult was being abducted. And back then, we didn't have the computer, we didn't have the TV. And so my father was a little bit on the paranoid side, because he had served in the military, and he knew that these things could happen, and that how is he going to control 5 little kids at once? I mean, there were 5 of us in 4 years, and it's really tough to monitor your kids, monitor their friends, monitor their safety, monitor your lifestyle. And so he was very determined to be, what do they call him? I don't want to call him a Papa Bear, but he was a Papa Bear combination of like a bird swarming over his 5 kids. And then at the same time, he was running a business, and then had another business and another business. It was really challenging. So I think he was concerned about all of it, and his plate was just way too full. So he was just saying, if this happens, pay attention to this in case you get dropped off somewhere. But DC was still a big area, even though it was little towns all over. Like we lived in Arlington, then we lived in Falls Church, then we lived in nearby Dunloring. I mean, it's all surrounded. It's right down the street from DC. So he definitely had a super cautious mentality.
Well, I guess that is something that stood him well and stood
I
y'all
think
well.
so. I think so. I mean, we're all here today. Not typically, statistically, which I'm very, very. I tell people I'm very much a black and white person. What are the facts? And typically, if you have 5 kids, you're going to lose 1 out of 5. If it's not to drugs, it's to a missing person. If it's not that, it's a car wreck, and all of us are still alive. And not to say we haven't had a lot of car wrecks.
Well, I understand that because I have children and we've experienced that. And it was quite alarming and scary. And I'm very fortunate that they're all still here.
Yeah.
I agree with
You do definitely have to look at the statistics on, crime doesn't have to be, I stole your purse. It could be I stole your kid. and they don't, the rarity of coming home is minimal. So you have to be on it right away. And if you have to teach your kids how to protect yourself or how to talk to the abductor or how to react if you get locked in a room or how to do this or how to do that. It's a earlier combo of safety, security, and you have to learn how to escape. And that's, we're in a very unusual time frame.
We are.
But then again, it's highly publicized now. So that's why I think my job as a forensic dowser and psychic is very controversial, because I'll get a phone call and somebody will say, what do you think? Are they alive or dead? And I'll say, they're alive. And people say, no way, there's no way. And down the road, they find out they're alive, or somebody's been abducted. And I said, it's not good.
Yeah.
And I'm the one bringing the bad news. So I'm the bad guy.
I find that to be true with almost every case. I know people who are brilliant and gifted psychics who will not touch that because they're the bad guy. They're perceived as maybe being complicit in the case or having something else, and that's just terrible.
Well, I definitely call it the double-edged sword. I mean, a lot of times I'll tell people, bring the police in, let's talk with the police. And tonight I'll give you a couple example cases where it turned out great in the sense that it got solved, or great in the sense that there was cooperation. Sometimes you can have cooperation with the family in the beginning, and then other times absolutely no cooperation the other 50% of the time, because the family is just shutting down emotionally because they're so traumatized. Or you have total cooperation in the beginning from the police, and then they say, no, we don't want to do this. Or because they dealt with 2,000 psychics, or because there's too much publicity. So, and media can be your friend, your ally, or your enemy. I mean, it's a game changer. This work is definitely a game changer.
I agree. I have seen cases where they just assume that it's family members off the bat because best access. But then again, I've seen hideous cases where it was family members. And you think, there were 2 instances in Mississippi, the last one just this week, of babies being by grandparents. And
it's hard to, I
can't fathom that. I cannot fathom that. And more than politics, more than, yang back and forth, more than, he said, she said, that level of evil is what concerns me for our world, not just our country, but our world, because that is bad. That is the worst.
It is the worst. The only thing that bothers me is that some of this is drug related. And even though it's a grandparent, as I say, trust me on that one, you don't have to be 10 to take drugs, or 20 or 30 or 50. It covers every age. I mean, I have just been shocked at the fact that a grandparent is taking meth and they do not remember what they did, and they can't fathom what they did. I have a relative who was beaten to a pulp, and 3 days later she got to go to court, and she had to talk to the guy who beat the ever-loving out of her, broke her ribs, broke bones in her eyes, and he burst out in tears. He was not on drugs, he was drunk. And that big difference between meth and drinking. But the tragedy is that he had to face what he did to his girlfriend, who he had planned on marrying. And she couldn't marry him because you got drunk once and this is what you did. And the equation is over. You're done. There's no moving forward. And it's really amazing because he did end up getting married and never touched the other girl. But what he did with my friend was, I had the pictures, and I just, it's just hard to fathom. Regarding the grandparent, it could have been drugs. Unfortunately, we have a couple other things, factors involved with stabbings and that kind of thing. Not just anger, but terrible mental health issues. And I think the big thing, if I had to say one of my top platforms, I mean, I have like 3 platforms, is mental health. And unfortunately, some people don't have the money to take anxiety pills, or they don't have money for bipolar disorder, or they don't have money for schizophrenia. And some of these people, once they get in meds, they found out what they did later, and they say I don't remember that. It was like I was in my body, but I was outside of my body. Have you heard that before?
I have. I've actually heard someone say that.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm. It wasn't me. I swear to God, but it wasn't. I've heard people say it before where they shot somebody and they said, I wouldn't have done that. Now, some people just bold-faced lie. I get it. That's understandable. But that's why we have detectives who their specialty is interrogation.
mm-hmm.
But then you have people that they do not, cops just don't include the mental health background or problem. So it's that one I would bet. There was a daycare worker in Chicago stabbing baby. And I thought, it's vengeance. Of course it's evil because you're talking about the innocent of the innocent, but it's also the fact that she couldn't get mental health help. She could have been an indentured servant. I understand, to my knowledge, she was Asian. I could be wrong, but there's so many complications now in crime. I talked to a friend of mine who worked for the feds, and he said, Ginette, crime used to be easy. You go in, and typically if somebody gets abducted or murdered, it's typically by a family member or one of their neighbors, somebody in this little radius, right there, and at home, near home. And he goes, not anymore. It could be random. It could be just off the charts. Somebody felt like shooting somebody today. And I thought, oh, that's great. So it's harder to solve a crime than it used to be. And then, of course, we have the new drug system of, I think I'll take somebody else's drugs and get so screwed up I have no clue what I'm doing.
I don't know.
We have a lot of battles.
I'm so odd. I really am so odd. I have such an issue with personal responsibility. If you do it, even if because you chose to do those drugs, you chose to have these behaviors, and that is what is causing a lot of the issues. There isn't a level of responsibility that someone has to say, you know what? Yep, I did that. I screwed that up. I don't know how I'll ever live through this. It's always the people that do it turn into the victims, as opposed to the victims being avenged or whatever. Avenged is a very strong word, but I don't mean it in the form of, pitchforks and flames and stuff like that. I just mean it's the victim who died who is the victim. And then I do understand that sometimes mental health issues are involved, and I do understand that there's not great mental health, that all people get sent home who are just batty as can be. And
well, I mean, you can look at the Jodi Arias case, for example. She's not mentally ill. She's a brat.
Right.
She wanted to get her way. She killed her man because she didn't get her way. And if I can't have you, you're done. I'm going to kill you. And then she thinks she's going to get away with, because she's so little, I'm not guilty.
Right.
Okay, that kind of case is pretty much a shut door case. Okay, you did it. Goodbye. Then there are mental health cases where somebody is totally messed up and they need to be not in a prison, but I want to say, I guess you call it the psych ward, a jail where it's a psych ward, and because they need mental health and monitoring heavily.
Yes.
And then we have the Holly Bobo case. Do you remember that one?
I do.
And it was, and it still is ongoing, where they're trying to weed out information. Unfortunately, with some meth heads, there's a form of entitlement with some of the kids.
Yeah.
And the kids feel like, I can grab somebody off the street, I can hurt them, rape them, but oh gosh, she saw us, so we'll have to kill her. And she didn't die, so I'll just kill her another way, So after all the brutality, we're gonna shoot her. Wow. This is a person who belongs in prison for the rest of their life because they cannot be socially mixed with the rest of us.
Right.
And that's not an opinion. That's the way the criminal justice system is. But unfortunately, a lot of these guys are still hanging on like the little kitty cat on the wall of, well, I really didn't do anything. I'm not the one who shot her, or I only raped her, but I didn't kill her. Uh-huh.
Exactly, right?
It,
No,
it,
I
it's,
was
it,
not. I was not the
mhm.
one. Well, you were there. You were a participant. You're guilty of both.
You are co-conspirator.
Yes.
You are plotting. You are planning something none of us would do. Most of us would not do. It just ain't happening. But again, a lot of them only remember bits and pieces. And then again, some of them only remember what's convenient. And so we're in a real catch-22 with these crimes. And then you have people like the Casey Anthony case that I worked on, and it was a whole it was like icing with manure. It was horrible. When I came on board, I mean, do you want me to tell you the story, or
Well,
would your fans like to? You tell
I'm.
me where you want to head.
I do want to, but we are going to break in just 1 minute, and I know that this is going to
Okay.
not be a 1 minute conversation topic because
Mm.
you were very involved with that. And the country was, everyone was, because I don't think that anyone really doubted what happened, long
There
term.
was there was a lot more to it than people really knew, and I
Yeah,
and I don't think it was written about, but supposition, lots of supposition.
yes. Well, I'll
So
tell you, we've got about 20 seconds left. And I do want to get into that because first, before we go, were you involved in that from the beginning?
no, no.
Okay. So
Hmm.
we will pick that up when we get here. And this is going to be a 3 minute break, everybody. So we'll see you on the flip side.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting. The best in paranormal talk radio.
And we are back with Ginette Lucas here on Paranormal Experience Radio. I'm Kat Hobson, your host. And Ginette, we were talking about the Kaylee Anthony case and your
Hmm.
involvement with that.
Hmm. Well, I'll just tell you what happened. On any case, basically someone calls me, whether it's the family, the police, or community member. So I had a gentleman call me, and Luke Phillips, Luke Phillips, and he had called my father and said, "Oh, I have this missing person case," and it was like I think 2 months into the case, which I didn't know because I'm in the Richmond area and they don't cover a lot of casework. They're more isolated to locale and the local news, the local events, that kind of thing. And it was really uncanny. So I didn't know anything about it. And plus, at the time, I had little kids. And so he said, "I'd like you to find this missing little girl." And I was like, "Geez, I'm really busy." And so I told him a location, and I mean, it's the same exact location I'd given him in August, same exact location I'd given him in October. And he just didn't want to believe it. I said, "She's deceased. And I think and I mentioned the location. And I, it was very frustrating for me because I just gave the information. And then he had said he was working with the PI with the family, and they sort of disappeared and had me work on other cases for fun. And August came along and they said, "So where is she?" I said, I don't get away from this one spot." And then behind the scenes, they were saying I said a bunch of stuff I never said. So they were manipulating the media to do what they wanted. And when I say they, I don't know if it was both of them or just the PI who wasn't really a PI, because I'm a former PI. I was sort of bored with being just a psychic. So I went out and I got my private investigator's license and became a private investigator. I wanted to learn what it's like to be on the inside. And I mean, yes, I'm the psychic inside. Now I'm the PI inside, and I'm learning the ins and outs. And I belonged to the Private Investigators Association, and you hang out and meet and greet a lot of police officers and detectives, and you get inside scoops and directions. And it was awesome. A lot of quick training. And then I meet the PI down there, Dominic Casey, and Dominic was not a PI. He was a PI under the auspices or licenses of the lawyer. So basically, he had no experience as a PI, no training, no nothing. He just walked in the door and said, "Hey, I need to be a PI." And that was it. So the lawyer made him a PI.
I thought you had to train under another PI for so many years.
In Florida, you do. It's the law. They were sort of, what's that word? Massaging the law. Because I have lectured for the Private Investigators Association of Florida to about 400, or if not more, PIs. And when I was down there, they told me the laws, and it was too difficult for me to get in the door because you had to be the fledgling of a cop or a detective or another PI firm. And they were very selective who they had come in. They didn't know me from Adam, from Virginia to Florida. So I just stayed in Virginia and did my casework all over the place, from Virginia remotely to the Caribbean or wherever else I had to do the work, because I used my psychic ability and my dowsing ability. And then I also used what I call incubation of dreams. And you combine it all, and it comes under the table, the umbrella of parapsychology and
Yes.
the paranormal umbrella, and boom, you have your answer. But the problem with the PI down there, he was constantly in the news, and I think that he and the lawyer just loved that attention, and they were getting more casework, and they were getting more of a volcano eruption. And some people just love chaos. I don't personally love chaos. I mean, when I was done. I moved on, and it was really hilarious because a lot of production houses called, but they called the wrong telephone number, so they never got my interview. I mean, that's how bad they were at calling me. They called my old telephone number. So the poor lady who had my old telephone number,
no. Oh, gosh.
can you fathom? She got like 2,000 calls, and I felt so badly for her. And I said, I called her and I said, "Are you getting a bunch of phone calls?" And she said, "Yes." And I said, "Well, my name is blah, blah, and here's my real number if you want to have people call me." And she goes, "No, I just don't get the calls. I've had like 2,000 calls." And I said, "I'm so sorry, but I was the one on the news, blah, blah." And she didn't want to deal with it anymore after the first 1,000, but I don't blame her.
I don't blame her either. That's a lot of having to answer and say,
Mm-hmm.
nope, not
Mm-hmm.
me. Nope, not me.
Right. I mean, that's ridiculous. Plus, she was, in Richmond area, and she only had family in Richmond, so she didn't, almost all the calls were coming from all over the U.S. And so that was easy. Anybody out of the area, 804, she wasn't going to pick up. So that was a
So she had a
short and
plan.
sweet. Yeah, oh, she had a plan. Oh, definitely. But on my situation, when I was doing the case, I gave the information, and then finally I said, okay, maybe I don't have it. Just send me a personal belonging. When I say I don't have it, I don't have the information correct. Just send me a belonging, something of Kaylee's, and the grandmother sent me the teddy bear in the mail. And there's so many incorrect information, so much incorrect information on the case. I was never given a map of where they lived or anything like that. Never. I requested a map. I requested the name of the town, the name of the street, nothing. Never given it ever. It drove me crazy because it's like if you wanted to leave my house and go to the high school, how are you going to get there if you don't have directions? You don't have my zip code? I had nothing. It was awful.
So they were
And I said,
was it just a test of you? Were they just trying to, what
no,
was
I
the
think they were.
motivation with that?
Well, I think they were using my father, who is pretty famous internationally regarding the dowsing.
Right.
And he didn't do it. He refused to do it. He didn't like working in that field. And he said, oh, Ginette, my daughter does it. And they were not aware of the fact that I'd already found 20 missing people. And so Luke wanted me to teach him how to douse to find missing people. But no matter what I did, the guy he couldn't figure it out. It is a process. It's really actually quite easy. And I even tried to show him some of my tricks of the trade from doing the work, and he just couldn't absorb it. I don't know why. He said he just couldn't comprehend it. And you also have to master some of the dowsing techniques. And some people just are fascinated by it, but they can't take the next step. And that's okay too. It's like a good psychic is a good psychic. And, maybe you're just good at healing, or maybe you're just good at visions or remote dowsing, remote viewing. It's a crazy field. It's a very weird field. That's why it's called the paranormal.
I will agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
I see that a lot of different gifts that just kind of show up in places.
Mm-hmm. Well, I am multi-talented, but I stick with what I know. If people call me and say, hey, how about this? For example, I team with Peter Marks, who's an astrologer, and I tell people, call me, I'll give you his number, and I do not do astrology. And if you want to double check my work, go to Peter. And Peter's in Connecticut, excellent astrologer, but guess what? He's also psychic, so he combines the two, and his answers are excellent. And he's one of my little team members, and it's phenomenal. I work with Angela Ford sometimes, and she is a locator like I am, and she's in Maryland. And if I can't do the job, I say, hey, call Angela. Or if I can't do a reading, I say, call Angela. There's a woman in Georgia. Sometimes I give out her name, Kathy Burrows. She's a psychic medium. I'm a psychic medium, but I'm not always available. And so I have to count on very, very strong people to follow through. Now, we have worked on treasure. We've worked on large-scale missing person cases like Matra de Mayo, which was really interesting. But when people call me and say, for example, oh, do you know a person to do a painting? Who are you going to call? You call the painter. You don't, So that's why I tell people, call the astrologer or call me and I'll give you the astrologer's number. You want the expert. You don't want the beginner who's just doing healing. And I'm very adamant about that. I tell people, listen, you want to try beginner, you're going to get beginner descriptions. You're going to get the basics. You're not going to get what you want to solve a case.
Well, because there's a lot involved in that. I mean, I know that a lot of psychics develop their own ways of communication with spirit. I don't know if that's what you do too, but things such as symbols and signs mean certain things to them when they're with their spirit guides. Do you have that happen in your line too?
Well, I'm very lucky because I had 3 near-death experiences. So what happened to me was that I don't stick with the same guide. I don't call them guides. I just call it the universe or, they're saying. And I was just interviewed recently and people asked me, why are you saying we Well, I guess we're a collective unit and I have a team, so I'll tell people right away, oh, my team, I can't say, oh, my team says this or my team says that. So I just say, oh, go call Peter, Peter Marks, the astrologer. Oh, go call Angela. So we think this. So typically I go for the throat. As I mentioned earlier, I'm black and white with my work. Somebody called recently, is my brother deceased or alive? So I'll have to say, look, and I charge fees. There are times when I do charitable work and there are times when I just cannot do it. My
Right.
plate is too full. And I'll say, well, listen, let's iron out, is he dead or alive? And then if he's deceased, let me give you the radius of where to search. And then I take it even further and say, you need to park here, or you need to start the search here, or you need canine, or you're looking for the well. So you can go to the county. I did a case one time. It was really fascinating. And I said, oh my gosh, she was hanging around bikers and they killed her and threw her in a well. And the family's like, no, she's got to be alive. 7 years later, she was found and bikers had thrown her in a well because some guy was, how somebody gets arrested and squeals. And she was thrown in a well by the bikers, and they had thrown some stuff in the well with her that proved that she was with the bikers. How they, with their colors or leather jacket or whatever. It was so funny. But unfortunately, we have a consistency when you do commit murder, somebody's going to squeal. So that's 50% of the case closure. And then you're going to have 25% where you have to solve it with people involved. And then you have the last 25% that stay cold case. And sometimes I get a call, I just got a call recently. In the last 2 years, I get these calls on cold cases, 35 years old. And recently I took them to an area and the cops were really happy because they said, you know what? We've been working on this for 35 years and not once have our dogs alerted. Not once. And this is the first time they've ever alerted. And a friend of mine is a canine specialist. So I tell people, you either need a metal detector, a canine specialist, or you need sometimes a backhoe. And every case is different. I mean, like the Anthony case, my situation got out of hand because when I took the PI to the site, for example, he didn't want to move forward. He said he had snakes crawling on his feet or legs. And I do understand Florida has some very dangerous, poisonous snakes. So I said, if you don't move forward and go to the media and tell them you found an area where I took you, and I just said it blatantly, I'm going to go ahead and make a phone call. And he said, what? And it was like 2 or 3 days later. I said, you need to move forward. Tell the media you think she's right here because I took you right there. And the only reason I know it is if I'm one of those people, let's say you go to the grocery store and you're buying your Nutella. Who doesn't love Nutella? And I said, oh, I found it. Nutella's close to the bottom of the shelving, but should be on the top. It's over. It's over.
But people who love it will bend over to look.
There you go. And I bend over. So what am I doing? I'm looking and looking and looking. And then it's over near the peanut butter. But here's the thing. I called Fox or NBC and I said, I'm so-and-so. And I'm a well-known psychic. And I was talking to Dominic Casey and I told him where the body was. He was there. I gave all the details. And I said, he needs to call you and tell you that we suspect there's a body there because he had seen some bones or something odd, suspicious. And he had never called. He'd never called in all that time. And so I was truly frustrated. I was thinking the public needs closure on this crap.
Well, did he not tell the police?
No.
He just
didn't call
kept
anybody.
that?
Correct. And
Wow.
he had his friend videotape it. I had given him the name of the street, Suburban. And then the other conflict was so many psychics were involved. A couple other psychics came out of the woodwork saying they gave me the information. And I said, well, if they gave me the information, where is she? Huh? And I said, secondly, I've done 20. How many have you done? This is their first one they've actually located. And they just happened to be working on another case I was doing in Maryland, which was really interesting. And I was on the money on that one too with Luke Phillips. And so what I'm saying is sometimes you have instigators on a case. So some family members really need to be careful who they pull in. And then sometimes you have psychics who are like, oh no, they claim that they did it. You know what? I didn't moan and complain. I just walked away because nobody could call me to get my opinion, and there was nothing I could do about it.
Right.
But right now, I'm doing a whole year of teaching how to find missing objects because that's what I do. I find missing objects and treasure and that kind of thing. But
Well,
I
the
do want
treasure
people.
thing is neat too. But go ahead. I'm sorry. You do
Mhm.
want people to what?
Yeah, I do want people to know that the reason the case came to a closure was because I forced it. I called the press and I said, listen, she's right there. You cannot miss it. I mean, I said he went to site, he videotaped it. I guess you call it videotaped. He had the friend come out that was a PI and he videotaped it and he has the videotape. And then what was so sad was that I said a bunch of stuff about selling it to the press. I said, you can sell it if you want to sell it to the press. I mean, you haven't been paid for your work, so there's nothing wrong with selling it to the press. They have funding for it. Go ahead and do it. They said I said the baby was taken to South America.
To
Never
South
said that.
America.
Oh, yeah. They came up with all sorts of stories. They were doing an ongoing guinea pig runway of, how the guinea pig runs on the treadmill around and around and around.
Yeah.
And
then
it was
flops out.
oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was just an ongoing saga. And I was like, this is crazy.
That
We've got
is
too many.
crazy.
We've got too many cases that are critical and that really need attention, like Holly Bobo, who did not get the attention. And
Well, that's what's so bad. The media will focus, based on the sympathy quotient of the victim. And that gets
drama.
Frustrating. Yes, it gets
The
frustrating
drama.
when you're the public who is concerned, and if you feel like, well, this needs to have help. And I can only imagine what an investigator feels, especially at the beginning when time is of the essence.
Right. Well, I'll just share this with you. I was never involved with the police, but later, because NBC had interviewed me up in DC, because I'm from the DC area, NBC used to call me all the time about missing kids all the time. And I did a lot of interviews, and it was really interesting. NBC down there treated me really nice, whereas Fox flip-flopped back and forth and back and forth. Oh, Ginette does this, Ginette does that. That wasn't true. They just went ahead and kept feeding media info because they were speculating. And they were pulling other people into stories that were not true. And I thought, oh my God, they're just doing filler. And so
Some things are too important to be just filler.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm sure a lot of families with missing loved ones are just frustrated. But back to the cop I was talking to, Detective Allen called me and said, why didn't you call me? I said, what? You're going to pick up the phone and I'm the 2,319th psychic that calls you? You're going to listen to me? Well, you could have told me who you were. I said, listen, I worked on a case in Baltimore. They took the information and trashed it and laughed at me. I said, and it utterly astounds me. I said, you can laugh all you want, but if I feel certain of a location, I'm going to give you the location. Get it over with. Get in, get out, get it done. Let's move on to the next one. And, so the family can have closure, so they can have burial or do whatever they feel they're comfortable with.
Right. Well, do you get to speak with the families when you're working on a forensic case like that? Do you get involved with the families, or do you tend to steer clear of that?
It's a 50-50 shot. I've never spoken to Cindy. Anthony, I've never spoken to the father. My preference was to talk to Cindy. They kept saying yes, because I came to Florida for a vacation, but I came to the East Coast, not to Orlando. And I said, listen, if I come down, why don't you guys come on over to where I am? And he goes, yeah. Never showed up, never called, never followed through. And I said, there's your clue. This is just a part of life. Never talked to Casey, never talked to her brother, not introduced to anybody. It was almost like the little circle of, we're in this water with sharks in it. I'm sitting on the side watching and thinking, this is ridiculous. For example, when I got the teddy bear, they blew it out of proportion. Okay, I got the teddy bear. I told him it was the same location. I gave very, very specific locations. I was on the phone with him, which I had to prove. And, in a way, thank God for Nancy Grace, because I had to give her proof that I was on the phone with the PI.
Yeah.
And I said, listen, Virginia is in a paperless society with cell phones, telephones, and it takes 2 weeks to get the record, so I can prove it, but I'm not there at my father's house. He's 4 hours from me, and I'm not driving up there tonight. I had
Well, I
two
don't
little
blame you,
kids.
but you know what? We are actually 2 minutes past our break. So
Okay.
we are going to go. This is a little 2-minute break, and we will be right back.
Perfect.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
And we're back. Thank y'all for your patience. And I am just really enjoying this conversation, Ginette.
Good.
Because I sit on the outside looking at these cases. I have friends who are forensic psychics who are very good at what they do also. And I lost, you were talking about finding things. I lost some Jimmy Buffett tickets right before my daughter's wedding, and only one of them was mine. And so I messaged 3 different girlfriends and said, look, this is what happened. And their paper, there's 2 pieces of paper I need to find. And one of them actually saw what I remember doing with them. And I said, I did that, but they're not there. And she said, well, then you have house elves. And I was
You
like,
have
well,
what?
they need house elves. I said, well, then they need to learn to fold laundry and put it in drawers. Because if they're going to hide my things, they have to work too. It was interesting. So I was surprised.
Mm-hmm. I'll tell you, it's not fun. Not fun to lose things. I mean, people lose jewelry, keys, paperwork. I just had 2 calls last week where a lady gave me 3 locations. It's here, here, or here. And I thought to myself, thank you. And I tell people I get paid to find missing objects. And I'll share with you some funny cases I got phone calls on. One of them was an older lady, and these are the kind of things you have to deal with when you do missing objects and buried treasure and that kind of thing. She called me and she sounded like this, hello there. And I thought to myself, oh my God, did I get a woman who's 83 or 93 with dementia? And she goes, I would like to pay you to help me find a missing bra.
Oh no, it must have been her favorite.
It was her favorite, and
There
it's
you
been
go.
missing for.
I would
It was
pay somebody for that.
Yeah, and she goes, it's been missing for 20 years, and I was like, oh my God, no.
Oh
And
wow.
and I said, well, sweetie, and then she told me, we talked, and I found out she was a hoarder. And I said, you know what? It's better that you take that $75 you're going to pay me and you go buy a brand new bra and you'll be a happy camper.
True that.
Because I just, what are you going to do? You can't solve them all.
Well, especially that was not going to be solved and there would be no satisfaction.
Well, I would assume by now that the bra had disintegrated mostly. And, what do you do for somebody who's in a delicate situation? She's elderly and you really don't want to charge her, but you don't want to work on a project that could be really gone 20 years ago, but her mind is 20 years ago. So you're falling off a cliff. You're not getting anywhere. It's not going to happen. So
well,
it's just too funny.
Well, that is too funny because I just am always so frustrated because I'll get in a hurry and I'll put something down. And normally if I just stop for a minute and just meditate, I'll know where it is. But if I get in a tizzy, then I am just really messed up.
Right.
It's not going to happen.
Yes. And I will tell you, do you want to share a couple of missing object stories? Would that help your listeners?
I think that it would. And if you come across those Jimmy Buffett tickets, you just let that go too, because they're still gone. That has been 3 years. And they're
really?
Yes.
Well, it's really funny because it's near a purse. It's near a blue item. So let me tell you how I find missing objects. I'm going to give you 2 stories. Recently, I was on, oh my gosh, a radio station, and I asked the guy, this is how good I am at finding missing objects, because I have to laugh about it, because my sister said, you're such a freak. And I said, I know, I can't help it. It is what it is. First, I love it. And second, I tend to be, my husband calls me anal and about doing it. But I love what I do. And it's a quick solve. It's like making a cake. In 2 hours, you bake your cake, you get to see the outcome, and you're all happy. So there's a guy, Gary Tombstone Anderson, and I was on his show, and I said, yes, I find missing objects all the time. So I shared with him what I did for the writer of a Smithsonian Magazine article about dowsing, and he goes, okay. And I said, do you have something missing? And he goes, yeah, I have my Harley Davidson key fob. And the problem with the Harley Davidson key fob, and this is what's across the board, why crime is a game changer, because every case has its own little identity problem. I mean, it's just too funny. It's almost like trying to build a fence, and each fence has to be built a different way. So on Gary's situation, the Harley Davidson has set up your bike for security that if you don't have a specific key fob, you can't even start your motorcycle.
Oh, no.
And your key is like $500 to $1,000. That's what I was told anyway, to get a replacement. So he had 2. His son lost one, and he lost the other.
Oh, no.
So basically, I said, I just happen to have, and this is what I tell people: combine your dream, if you have a dream, combine the dowsing, and combine the visions. Now, again, the word remote viewing is a brand new packaged word for vision. Okay. So we'll try to find your tickets. But originally what had happened was
they're by the wayside now. I do have something else later though.
Yeah, but they got moved. So somebody did move them on purpose.
Okay.
And it has to do with the letter M or N. I'm going to say that so you can write that down. But I just taught a class on how to find missing objects because I just love doing it. And anything under the auspices of missing object can, like I said, can be treasure. It can be person. It could be, but each one has their own little process or equation or formula. So on Gary's, I said, I had a dream last night. I was in your kitchen. And he goes, really? And I said, but I need some verification. Do you? Because I saw the mail in the kitchen. He goes, yes, I have. That's where we open our mail. I said, but the room next to the kitchen was the important room. I said, when you walk in the door and go to your left after the kitchen, what is right there? And he goes, well, normally it's and I said, is it a dining room? And he said, well, it is a dining room, but my wife turned it into a bird sanctuary.
Oh.
Can you fathom? He goes, yeah, we've got like 30 cockatoos or whatever in there. And I said, okay. I said, all right.
That's a lot of cockatoos.
Oh my God, can you fathom? I just, no. No. And he said, I came home that day and they had taken their seed and kicked it out of their cage and on the floor. So I went to get a vacuum cleaner. And I said, do you remember I said to you the electrical, I'm on the floor and I see an electrical plug-in. And I said, I think I see a table leg. I'm just giving you the general specifics. And I said, I just keep going to this electrical plug. And he goes, oh my God. And these keys have been missing for 3 weeks. All right.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it wasn't a short time. And I said, I don't know why, but I feel like I need to leave the dining room, go to the electrical plug in the kitchen, closer to the floor. Because, electrical plugs in the kitchen can be on the counter, or can be up or on the wall. Mm-hmm. I have one in the family room. It's right on the chimney, on the hearth.
That's
odd. Yeah. Well, for Christmas, somebody put it in for Christmas. It's so funny. And I said, but I'm on the floor. So I'm laying on the floor in the kitchen. When you walk in the door on the left near the bottom. And he goes, okay, we're about to go to break and I'll let you know in a minute. He comes back and he goes, okay, I found him. I said, what? And he goes, I found him. Now, of course, he minimalized the situation, which was really hilarious. And I said, okay, that's all you got? And he goes, well, I said, so why don't you tell us what happened? Okay, I just remembered I rode the bike. I came home. The birds kicked the bird seed all over the floor. I went to get a vacuum cleaner. I plugged in the vacuum cleaner. I dropped my keys right there.
Oh, wow.
I unplugged the vacuum cleaner, but the keys were under the table on the floor right there. I unplugged the vacuum cleaner and I put it back, and I forgot about the keys being right there all that time.
Unbelievable.
And it was in the kitchen. And I said, well, there you go. And of course, he was a happy camper, so that was really cool.
That is cool.
Yeah. So what I do is I try to isolate circumstances. Like I'll combine, so I call it the equation or a formula, like a physics formula or math formula. So I'll say, all right, here's the person. So it's who, what, when, where, how. So we got Gary Tombstone. What would be the keys? And you have to write down the description of the keys. Where would be the house? Because, it's either in the house, in the garage, or in the vehicle. All right. So you have 3 different sites to check. And then when you have to write down the date of the missing object, and he had the date, which was great. You can also do approximately. And then that's when you start doing the research. And I always use the magic word, show me, show me, show me, because we're humans when we're very visual. I don't care if you're blind or not, you're still visual.
Right.
All right. And you say, show me, show me. And then what happened was I had a dream about the kitchen, which meant the keys were probably in the kitchen. But I always take it step by step by step, because that's how I find the missing object. And people are like, well, you asked him questions. No, I said, I had a dream I was in your kitchen. All right. And the verification or confirmation I need is, where's the mail in the kitchen? Because you have to know if you're north, south, east, or west. And I said, when you sit in the kitchen, is it behind you? And he said, yes, which meant when I go for the keys, they're going to be on the left. Does that make sense?
It does.
And so he found them on the left, on the floor, near the table leg. That's why I couldn't see the keys, because it was right near the table leg or something. It was covered up or whatever. My bet is that somebody else vacuumed and pushed the keys closer to under the table, but right next to the electrical plug. And voila, there we have the answer. So
I love that. That's just plain methodology and
it is
knowing what you're doing.
Yes. And I also have a great story for people in case they want to learn about dowsing, because I am a member of the American Society of Dowsers.
Is this a 1 minute story?
Do we have 1 minute? Is that it?
We do until the top of the hour.
Well, we'll come back and talk about it.
Well, we will, but we do have that minute. I want to know when you told him where those keys were and he ran to go look, did he doubt you for a moment? When you told him, do you feel like he knew that was right?
He knew it was right. He definitely shared an emotional, oh my, in the beginning before the break, he goes, oh my God.
Because he remembered the vacuum, right?
He did. A telepathy person would say, oh, you did it using telepathy. No, I used it either using remote viewing or a combo of dowsing or a combo of dreams. So I tell people, why are you using one talent versus all of them?
I wonder that too sometimes, because I don't understand. If you can do all of the things, you should do all of the things.
It's a faster process.
Seems like it would be. I mean, it's just common sense, right?
It is.
And
it is.
That being said, we are going to our news break where hopefully we'll find a little common sense, but doubtful. I kid. But we'll be back in 5, people. Y'all just enjoy this, and maybe we'll find a little good news in here today.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Jack Speer. A team of researchers has issued its first report on Hurricane Michael's impact in Florida. NPR's Greg Allen reports the information will be used to revise building codes on the Florida Panhandle.
In a preliminary report, a team of civil engineers funded by the National Science Foundation says the high winds and storm surge tested code and construction practices in the Panhandle with devastating results. 2 hospitals in Panama City took significant damage. Tyndall Air Force Base had damage to roofs and aircraft hangars and is currently uninhabitable. Many metal-framed commercial buildings failed in the storm, losing much of their exterior glass and siding, leaving their interiors exposed. Residential damage wasn't confined to older homes built before current building codes were adopted. The report says some newer structures with elevated living spaces and concrete piers were destroyed by the record-setting storm surge. Greg Allen, NPR News.
After Turkey's claims that as evidence that missing Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi was killed inside the Saudi consulate in Istanbul, U.S. officials said they want a thorough investigation into what happened, something U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo made clear to reporters during a refueling stop in Brussels today.
I'm convinced that the Saudis understand that America is taking this seriously, and I am hopeful that the Saudis take this as seriously as they indicated to me yesterday that they would. Time will certainly tell. We'll get to see the investigation, and we'll see the results of it.
President Donald Trump, meanwhile, says he's asking Turkey to provide audio or video to the U.S. if it exists. Trump says he's not sent the FBI since the journalist, while contributing columns to the Washington Post, is not a U.S. citizen. The president again called for Saudi Arabia an important ally called it an important ally, noting the country is a customer for U.S. military exports. The Trump administration is threatening to withdraw from another international treaty. As NPR's Yuki Noguchi explains, the latest involves a postal agreement that Trump asserts gives Chinese companies an unfair advantage when they ship goods to the U.S.
For 144 years, the U.S. has been part of the Universal Postal Union, which sets shipping rates for international deliveries. Poorer developing countries, including China, pay lower rates, while rates in the U.S. and Europe are higher. Nowadays, because so many products are shipped into the U.S. from China, the Trump administration argues this amounts to a subsidy. This new escalation of trade tensions between Washington and Beijing could mean higher prices for American consumers. The administration says it will start the year-long process of withdrawing from the treaty unless it is renegotiated. Yuki Noguchi, NPR News, Washington.
Stocks, after sliding, regained some of their lost ground near the close. The Dow ended down 91 points at 25,706. The Nasdaq closed down 2 points. The Standard & Poor's 500 was down a fraction of a point today. This is NPR. European leaders are meeting in Brussels to hammer out a Brexit deal, but expectations of a breakthrough during the 2-day summit remain low. As NPR's Soraya Sarhadi-Nelson reports from Brussels, was also a key person missing from a dinner meeting of the leaders, British Prime Minister Theresa May.
Prime Minister May was given 30 minutes to present her plans to break the latest logjam in negotiations. But instead of offering new proposals the EU was seeking, May outlined the progress both sides had made over the past month.
I believe a deal is achievable, and now is the time to make it happen.
German Chancellor Angela Merkel agreed, saying they were 90% there. Merkel said she'd continue to work toward finding common ground, adding it would be better for all concerned. The question she and other EU leaders must now decide is whether to schedule an emergency summit next month to give negotiators more time to avoid the chaos and costs a no-deal Brexit would bring. Soraya Sarhadi-Nelson, NPR News, Brussels.
The man behind the puppet Big Bird on Sesame Street is retiring after nearly 50 years on the job. Carol Spinney announcing in a statement today he's handing over Big Bird and his other character, Oscar the Grouch, to younger performers. The 84-year-old puppeteer joined the show at its inception in 1969 and also did the voice of Big Bird.
Bye, Gordon.
Oh. Wait!
Bye-bye. Bye, Susan. Bye. Bye, Barkley.
Spinney says he actually stopped doing the puppet work for Big Bird in 2015. His apprentice, Matt Vogel, takes over. I'm Jack Spear, NPR News in Washington.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Hello there. You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I am Kat Hobson, your host of Paranormal Experience, and I am joined tonight by someone who is just fascinating me. I am having a great time with this conversation, and this is Ginette Lucas. Ginette, I am so enjoying you. Thank you for sharing so well.
You're welcome. Let's have some more fun.
Let's do it. I am ready. We were talking about lost items, and you had just taught a class, and I wish that I had been able to attend that class because I think it would have made my life much better.
Well, it's certainly very helpful. I'm teaching another class in D.C. for the American Society of Dowsers, November 4th on a Sunday in Silver Spring, Maryland. And so if anybody's interested, they can just give me a call when you're getting ready to give out my number, and I can tell them who to contact and who to email. The class is limited. They only have 80 seats. So this should be interesting, to say the least.
No doubt.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we are going to go send press releases to the Post, the city paper, et cetera, and it's just going to be a lot of fun. So I'll find a few more missing objects.
I have a friend who actually is, among other things, a treasure hunter. He got involved with the Geiger counters and metal detectors, and just became enthralled with that. He actually started a group. He is a ghost ship hunter. He is a retired stuntman who likes to find things to do. And he likes to take people along with him to do that. So he's the only real treasure hunter that I know personally, other than you. Now,
well, it's a great field. It's just fun. It's happy. It's family friendly. It's never ending. Every time you do it, it's a surprise. And I tell people, please take your kid, go do this. Your relationship will get nothing but better.
Well, obviously, because you're spending time together, you're primarily outdoors. Mm-hmm. It's a great activity.
It is. Well, actually, it's also you're just breathing the fresh air. Now, there are times when it's dangerous, the gators and yes. Time, so you have to be a little bit more security oriented, or you have to be careful of the red tide. My guys went out recently and the red tide was there, and they got sick as could be. So that didn't work out.
Though, because it's a very chemical smell, and people are acting like this is the very first red tide ever, but they happen all the time. It's just amazing how ill it can make you.
Absolutely. I would agree. I just think it's a lot more dangerous than we think it is. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you just have to walk away and say, okay, I'm not going to do this today.
Right.
I mean,
and it's okay to do that. I mean, you have to take care of your health. If you don't, nobody else is going to.
Mm-hmm. I just think people get so excited when it comes to buried treasure hunting.
I think so too.
They really, they're, I'm sorry, but men turn into little boys. Oh my God.
Do. And well, it's the same thing with the deep sea treasure hunting. Mm-hmm. I go to Key West every year, and the people that found that massive treasure are, they're based out of they're right by the Hogfish on Stock Island. Their ships are. And it's so cool to see these things. And, the treasures on display in the different places as well in Key West. And, it's just amazing to me. I think it's cool.
It's very impressive. Well, I can talk about the Smithsonian Magazine in a moment, but I can share with you one of my cases that was really fun, and it's family friendly. Of course, it's not crime related, but it is crime related, and I'm sure a lot of your listeners have heard of Al Capone. I got a call. I got a call one day, and they said, "Listen, I know you're coming to Chicago to a particular conference, and we would like you to give us a reading to see if we should be buried treasure hunters. And we have all these projects, and we want you to pinpoint where the treasure is. So let's make it a short story. I get to Chicago, I meet them, I'm thinking to myself, what? What?
That's fun.
It was crazy. And I thought to myself, okay, so I started walking away from them. And because I view clients differently, and I tell people, listen, it's really great you want to be a treasure hunter, but let's look at all the facts. And I walked away and I said, okay, listen, I'll do the reading. Let's take step one, and then we'll see if you're going to move forward. And if you're going to move forward, I'll take a look at all your maps of all your different sites. So let's say you had 5 sites in the U.S., like New Mexico or Georgia or wherever. And I walked away, and within 10 feet, I had this epiphany or deja vu. And I turned around, and I'm wearing stiletto heels, which, most of us know what that is.
Oh, yeah.
And I ran back to them, and I said, oh, my God, I'm going to help you find treasure. And they go, really? And I said, yes, get your reading, bring your maps with you, and I'm going to find your treasure. And they said, are you sure? And I said, I'm sure. And that's why I tell people, I said, don't mess with me, because if I say I'm on it, I'm on it. I get very excited, and I tell people, no, you got this one. It's good. So they came in for their reading. I gave the husband a reading and a wife a reading. So on business, it's $300. On a personal reading, it's $150. If it's a celebrity reading, it's between $300 and $400, depending on how difficult it is, because sometimes it's very difficult. And so they're sitting down, and I give each one a reading and tell them where they're going to go, because I'm really good at dates and geographics and names. And we're done, because I taped them, which is great, because parents can go back to their reading at a later date. And I said, I got some names in my head. Let me see your maps. This is so goofy. At the time, I was playing with treasure hunting a lot. And so they gave me, they laid on a table, a 6-foot table, rolled up maps. And I touched one, and I felt like my hand had been burnt. It was so bizarre. And when I was a kid, my dad would bring home videotapes, actually 16 millimeter tapes, and share with the family what Russia was doing with their psychic university.
Right.
And the Russians, what they did was they would teach their psychics to pick up stuff through their hands, which is also called deviceless body dowsing. And so when I was a kid, I was trying to do the same thing. Now, that was second grade. So first it came the station wagon, where are you? Second, it was dowsing. And then third, it was the 16 millimeter tapes from the feds, where they're going and what they're doing overseas in Russia. And I that was the only one I got a reaction on where it felt like lightning had touched my hand and burnt my hand. And I said, this is your map. And he goes, what? I said, your treasure's right here. And so he told me that on that particular map, Al Capone's business associate, Ray Nitty, Nitty, had a group of them had robbed a bank truck from the Department of Treasury. And what they did was everybody got their split. And so the long and short was Ray Nitty took his split and possibly some of Al Capone's stuff, and he drove to mid or southern Illinois. And he went to a bed and breakfast with 20,000 acres. If I'm wrong, it's 40,000. I think it was more like 40,000 acres. And he went to this bed and breakfast. He loved their pancakes. And he told the owners, I've hidden some treasure on your property. It's over here if I never come back. And of course, Ray Nitty, he died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. I can't recall which. But what was interesting, was they gave me the maps, and I was given 3 maps, so I had to start narrowing it down. I said, okay, let's go to this one because I'm getting pinpricks all over my hands. So I got rid of the other 2 maps and eliminated it, and then we had to keep going, and I had to keep narrowing it down. And I said, right here. So what I did was I counted how many feet from the road to the area, and then the treasure hunting small group, 2 brothers and a wife, purchased a piece of equipment that is ground penetrating radar, and they took it over an area, and they flagged it, and they called me on the phone when they were on site, and they said, Ginette, we got a reaction here, but it's really weird. We dug 2 feet, and we dug up a 1920s car hood. You're not right. And I said, give me a minute. I got off the phone, and I kept hearing, go back, go back, go back. And I said, dig up that, and I was using curse words, dig up that damn car hood. And they go, why? I said, well, who do you think was around in 1920? I mean, that's when I said, come on, this is ridiculous. Pull up the damn car hood now. Take the equipment, put it back over the area, and see what happens. And they said it went crazy. And they found 60 bars of stolen treasure, 60 bars of silver.
Oh my gosh!
From the U.S. Mint. Mm-hmm. And I was a happy camper. So they had already prepaid me for the readings, paid me for the site work, and boom. And then if you go on and Google my father's name, Louis, Louis, Metacia, or go look on, well, anyway, you can Google me too, but what's funny is it shows you my father holding one of the silver bars in his hand.
That's so cool.
It was super cool, super cool. And I'll tell you another funny story that was really funny recently. I had some guys call me, and they were trying to decide whether or not to hire me. And I said, they were really irritating me. And I said, okay, I'll tell you what, where are you going? And they go, we're going down to South Carolina. I said, okay, how many acres? And they were just approximating. Treasure hunters are very secretive, as you well know. And they didn't want to tell me. So I said, okay, same old crap with the Casey Anthony case. You won't tell me where you are. So, okay, I want you to put a flag on a pole right where you are. I mean, you got to have a landmark. So I said, okay, so let's say you have 10 acres. They said, fine. I said, okay, so right now I'm gonna dowse it out. So at that time I was using the pendulum, and I said, you don't have anything. They go, no, there's treasure here. I said, no, there is not. And I used another method, what I call the compass method. And what I did was I said, stand at that pole. And this sounds so goofy. It was funny as heck. I said, I want you to go from 340 to 330 degrees and walk straight, in that direction. So in other words, he has to face north with the compass, and treasure hunters always have a compass with them.
Right.
At least the ones I know. And I said, I want you to go over to 330, 340, start at 340, and then go from 340 to 330 and start taking the machine. And they have a coil. It's like looks like a plate, a dinner plate. Mm-hmm. And I said, start over there and go back and forth 340 to 330. And within 5 to 15 minutes, he told me he found something. And I said, once you found that, that's all you get. And he goes, what? I said, I'm serious. That's all you get. You're not going to get anything else because there's nothing else on the property. And they dug, and they found a ring from 1924, and it was solid gold. And I said, you're not going to. Cool. And what's really funny, which was super cool, was they went back and they said, no, she's wrong. And they went back and found nothing. They did the entire 10 acres. And so who gets the check mark then? Who gets the kudos then? So,
well, you got to be careful how you talk to your psychics. And
I just thought it was funny.
It is funny.
From the female standpoint, it was just too funny.
It is too funny. And this is going to sound crazy, but it's because we were running a little late. We're 30 seconds out from a break.
Okay.
And, I am loving this. We've got Jean in chat who's like, stories, yay. She loves stories. And, well, who doesn't, right? So, and these are just really interesting because very few people realize there really is treasure to find. And
amazing.
It is amazing. And can we talk about it a little bit more?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, we will be right back.
Great.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting. The best in paranormal talk radio.
And we are back. And I hope y'all are enjoying Ginette as much as I am, because this has been one of my favorites ever in 4 years. I am having such a good time. Well, your information is so interesting and so good. You relate it well too. And thank you for that, because, you know, people think of psychics, and I know that you do a lot of work with, families who are in tragedy. But the flip side of that is doing things like the treasure hunting and the helping to find lost objects and teaching your classes, which gives you some release, I would think, from that. And because you can't be that intense all the time and still live a daily life. And you have found
it's difficult.
It is difficult. You know, and you have found a way to help others and have some fun doing it. And I think probably that releases some of the stuff from the negative, right? So that you stay fresh if you have to do that.
I think it helps me, but I think that when you have a person who, like a cop or a private investigator who does this work all the time, I think it actually shows on their skin.
It does.
And it's almost like smoking a cigarette, and ages them. And I meditate, and they've proven that meditation. I don't look 60. I'm 60, and I look 40. So Thank goodness. And this is the year I decided to start using. I haven't even used creams yet, and I'm just about to go buy creams. And people say, "There's no way you're 60." I went to the doctor today, and she goes, "No, you're not 60." She goes, "You're about 40, 45." And meditation is critical for your skincare, and water. I don't drink, I don't smoke, and I don't do drugs.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying you have to have a life that's totally pure, but it helps.
Well,
I mean, it's fun.
Well, you can have fun. We are back, and I just have to tell you that I am so fortunate. We have been having a fantastic conversation. All of a sudden, the internet decided that we were done, had to disagree, and finally, I think we may have won. Ginette Lucas, thank you for being back. I appreciate you so much.
No problem.
Wasn't that odd?
No, this has happened to me many a time.
Really?
It has. It has.
Well, good heavens. That's just crazy. I'm glad that it doesn't happen to me very much, or people would never listen to me.
I know. They jump off.
At least it's you're being the guest places that happens. So that's a little reassuring, right? That it doesn't happen to me very much. So
I'm so glad. Absolutely.
And then we've got Brenda in chat who just said, Ginette, I can't hear Kat. It's a conspiracy. Yay, both of you. So yes, it is both of us.
Oh my God.
And it was a conspiracy. We're going to write that down to a conspiracy. But, I have had the best time with our conversation, and we had been talking about the treasure hunting. And you are just rocking that.
It's fun. It's an ongoing saga of fun. It really is.
Well, it is just too funny. It's, like I said, I know one person who is a dedicated treasure hunter, and I know people in his group, and I am just so impressed with that. That you actually can just be sitting at home and tell someone what's going on around them if they're going to find something, and then you can be on site, and the sensations that you are getting from the maps with the burning sensations and stuff, that's a little freaky.
I do think you have to pay attention. I do think that is the biggest problem. If you don't pay attention, you're not going to win at treasure hunting. You're just not.
Well,
It's definitely got its own little mind, just like your radio. It's you have detail.
Well, it is, and it's really funny because detail is everything in what I do, and I am the most ADD person on the planet. I have notes. I have sticky notes everywhere. I have a notebook that has my methodology. You do this, you do that, you do this, you do that. Detail is very difficult for me, and yet I found myself thrust into this because for 4 years I called in. I booked my guests, and I called in, and I had a producer who made me sound wonderful and made my guests sound even better and handled all the promotion. And guests like you who have such interesting stories to share and great things to say are the reason I do this. I learn so much more than you would expect from talking to people like you.
Well, I definitely think radio has its medium. I definitely think that you could be riding down the road and relaxed and learn much more on radio than you can sometimes watching a TV program. Now, of course, we have our Josh Gates. So,
oh yes, I do love him.
I mean, I tweet back to him. Okay, I'm ready. I'll get my chair, my flavored water. I'm on. I'm there. Go. Because I have no intention of going to India where they have the cobra.
Oh, no.
No, it's not happening.
I would like to hear some more of your stories and some more about you.
Well, I do want to tell people that if you're going to do something in the paranormal to have fun, just remember, go in and don't get misled, because you have the gypsies out there. I think there was a recent story that bothered me, so I'm going to tell you the double-edged sword to the paranormal. There's some great people out there like Peter Marks, the astrologer. Great people like Kathy Burrows in Georgia. Great people like Angela Ford, who used to work for the federal government on psyching out where people are located that are missing or abducted or whatever. But then there are people that mislead other people and tell them, oh, you're so magical, or you're so this, or you're so that. That's really wonderful. But a year down the road, you're going to feel like a fool because you made a mistake. And it wasn't a small one, it was a big one.
Right.
And for example, I heard a young girl, read an article on light workers, and there was a young girl on there saying she was an alien. And then they said, well, you need to hook up with this other guy. He says he's an alien in Colorado. Oh, yeah, we're going to put together two magical people who think they're aliens. Now, why would an alien be openly transparent and say, I'm an alien? It ain't happening. Did you know? I'll tell you what happened to my daughter, and I mentioned I wouldn't talk about family, but I just want to say this. We put her on some anxiety medicine, and guess what? She had an allergic reaction. When she did, her eyeball went totally solid, almost all black. So she looked like a freaking alien. And I said, oh my God, my daughter's an alien.
Oh my God, is right. Holy wow.
Yeah, so I said, get off that stuff quickly. The nurse in her flat or apartment said, let me take your blood pressure. It had dropped down to like 60 and then 40. And I was scared to death she was going to die.
No doubt.
So, oh yeah, it was scary. And I thought to myself, you know what? This young girl and this guy in Colorado could be on medicine prescribed by a doctor, or they're taking their own little, medicine to help them deal with life. I mean, life is hard. And they're running around saying, I'm an alien to feel special, or for whatever particular reason. And I think it's really great that they may be an alien, but no alien in their right freaking mind is going to come out and say, I'm an alien. It's just not going to happen. Did you know, I don't know if you know this story, but during the Eisenhower timeframe, an alien ship actually landed in Alexandria, Virginia.
I have heard that, but I didn't know very much about it.
It is a true story. And friends of mine are physicists, and we're talking MIT and so forth and so on. Great connections of mine, and they all verified it. And the tragedy is that the doctor that was called to work on the project, his name was Dr. Strangest. And because of that, people didn't take it seriously, but it really did occur. Eisenhower's daughter confirmed it really did occur. And they came to planet Earth and said, get your act together and stop doing certain things. And here we are, just stuck doing things we shouldn't be doing. And they really didn't want us playing with the bomb, and they said that's not a good thing. And they were here for 2 or 3 years. And unfortunately, they left saying they were very disappointed. And this is our life. We have to decide what's important and what's not important. But I felt, going back to the girl who said she was an alien, I personally felt super uncomfortable with her saying it. And I addressed it, and they thought I was being a bully. And I said, I'm not being a bully. Do you want to talk about it 2 years from now when you're older? She was in her early 20s, like 21, 22. And she said, I'm out on my own. Okay, there's your answer. Psychologically, you're having a hard time being out on your own. You want to feel special. Well, I was adopted. Okay, well, how can you be adopted if you're an alien? Nobody wants to adopt an alien.
Well, it's highly unusual because would you do it on purpose? I mean,
it right? bothered me. Yeah. It's just the saga, And be proud Oh, good. But all I'm saying is, in this field, there are yo-yo heads out there that will take advantage of the circumstance, and they'll take advantage of you, and you're going to be mocked years later, and it's not going to be fun. It's not going to be a pretty picture. And all these times when they think, "Oh, I'm an alien," it's going to turn out bad. It's so sad because we just have predators for people that are vulnerable, not feeling important, and so forth. So anyway, I've had my say, and again, mental health. 50% of the world, mental health is an issue. It's also what you eat, you are, and so we have to really look at everything. So the paranormal is super complicated. I mean, you're working with your brain, you're working with your eyes, you're working with your hearing. When you talk to the dead, I tell people I had 3 near-death experiences. I can communicate with the other side. Now, mine is a little different. I can pick up information to help me find a missing person. And then there are other psychics, they only go on emotion. It's a very weird category.
If somebody is going only on emotion, are they able to be accurate?
It's hard, but you can certainly feel, what's that word I want to use? You can certainly feel evil.
Well, yeah,
you can,
I mean, recognize that.
I mean, you can drive down the street and say, "Oh my gosh, I feel that guy being evil," I mean, so it's complicated, and we just have to work with it. But there are times, like I said, I get very frustrated with my field. I think I hear it all more than other people. When I first started out, I'll just share this with the crowd. I used to say to God, "Why do I get all the hard cases?" And I did. I kept getting all the darn hard cases. I was really frustrated by it. I was like, "This isn't too good. Why do I keep getting all?" And I realized later, maybe it's because I needed to learn quickly so that when I had a really good case that needed me, I could handle it. And because a lot of psychics can't handle crime work. It's an ugly field.
I could see that. I would not be comfortable addressing that.
Well, I mean, how much time do we have left? And I'll share either some fun stories. I'll share quirky stories. Does anybody have a request for anything they want to hear?
Well, primarily it's just your stories. They just like what you want to share because it shares part of you. They understand you a little better, I think.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll share a story that's funny. Years ago, I was at a conference, American Society of Dowsers conference, which is annually around June, July every year. And there were quite a bit of attendees. And I tell people, you got to go to some of these meetings. They're just great. And the people are great. And I get there and my father was lecturing to, I don't know, 500 people maybe. And I was approached in a crowd by a guy and he said, "I'm the writer from the Smithsonian and I'm going to write an article. And instead of your dad, I'd like to talk to you, but all these people say you're a fraud." I said, "Really?"
Really? Thanks for boosting my ego. Of
Yeah,
course
thank
I'll
you
give
so
you an
much.
interview.
Yeah, that's like a real stab. And I said, "Okay, thank you for that." Misconception. But I said, what do you want from me?" And he goes, "Well, I'll tell you what, I'm giving a bunch of the Dowser tests. And whoever's right, I'm going to say they're amazing. And whoever is wrong, I'm going to say they're a fraud." And he goes, "And by the way, I think you're a fraud." And I said, "Oh, really? Okay, then.
Well,
thank you."
that's just double whammies.
Oh, it was not helpful.
What a putz, right?
Yeah, it wasn't good. So I'm going to wrap this up and just say he called me. We'd been talking off and on for about 2 years. And we became acquaintances, nice acquaintances, no problem. And he goes, "Okay, so I've got a missing object I want you to find." And I said, "Okay." So I wrote down who. His name was Jack Hope. And he was the writer from the Smithsonian Magazine. So that's who. What was the paperwork? And he he just said it was an article, I think, about some particular subject matter, but it was the word paperwork. So it's just like Googling something.
Right.
And I had his car, his house, his garage, or his work. All right. And I said, well, here's something weird. I'm being taken to your car. And of course, the same old story. No, you can't. That's not possible. Blah, blah, blah. And I said, okay, so I just need you to go to the trunk of your car. And he said, I don't have anything in the trunk of my car. I said, I want you to lift up this, this, and this. And there's paperwork that is so utterly important. You need to go there. So he went ahead and did it. And when he did, he called me back and he just was so blown away. He said, you're not going to believe this. I told you I had some missing paperwork. I said, yes. And he said, well, it's not what I was looking for, but what you told me was exactly where you said it was. But what's weird is I had a lawsuit and I lost the paperwork. And if I didn't have that in the next week, I was going to automatically lose my lawsuit. And he goes, this, and you know how that is, court cases and paperwork, and we misplace stuff. And he goes, I don't know how you did that, but that's worth its weight in gold for me because I got hit by a cabbie and I didn't have proof and I didn't have the ticket. And you just, he was saying I saved his life. He goes, now let's go back to the missing object I'm looking for. Oh, so I saved your life and that's not good enough. Okay.
Well, we'll just move right along then.
Yeah. And then back at the ranch, my emotions are thinking, oh my gosh, he still thinks I'm a fake. And so I was laughing because I was sort of cocky about my talent and I knew my talent. So I said, okay, so we got the car, we got the apartment, we've got the office or the garage. All right. I said, I'm going to your apartment. And he said, really? And he goes, I've already looked everywhere. I said, all right, well, let me just tell you what I think. I see I said, I want you to go to your office. And then when you get there, tell me how many file cabinets you have in the office. Because I went with, is it at the desk? Is it at this? Is it at that? And I said, I get the word file cabinet. So he goes, I have about 5 file cabinets in my room. I said, when you walk straight in the room and you go to the window, it's the file cabinet under the window. And I said, I feel like I'm near the floor, but not on the floor. He said, well, there's a desk there. I said, yeah, but it doesn't feel like it's attached. And he goes, has my wife had you come up here and look at my office? I said, no. And you got to laugh. You have to walk people through this stuff. It's just too funny. And I said, here's what we've got. You have got, I think, a desk with a file cabinet rolled under your desk, and it has 2 drawers because that's what I'm dowsing. And he goes, yes. I said, okay, well, I get that you need to go to the second drawer. And I said, I think you misfiled it, and I want you to open the second drawer. So he opens it. And I said, in the second drawer, I'm seeing the color red. So I'm using that technique of remote viewing or visions, whichever you want to call it, whatever you're more comfortable with. And I said, I see the color red. So I want you to go to, I said, is there a red file folder? And my head was telling me Santa Claus or Christmas. And he said, yeah, there's a file folder that is red. I said, okay, go to that file folder and go like 2 behind and 2 in front. And I think your item is right there. He goes, Ginette, it can't be. These are my 2 drawers where I put all my personal files. I said, just look, will you? And he pulls out he started to pull out the file folder on the red one. And he said, oh my gosh, it says Santa, just like you said. And I said, okay, that's great, but don't take it out because you'll lose your spot. And that's where the file is that you're looking for. And he just thought that was so weird. And I said, I'll tell you what, leave it there, go 2 in front and 2 back. I'm always repeating myself. And because the pendulum kept going in the same direction. Definitely yes. And he pulled it out and he started yelling. He was like, oh my God. And I said, what? Did you cut yourself or something? And he said, no, it's right here.
Oh my gosh.
And he goes, oh my gosh, it's right here. I said, okay, I'll tell you what you did. And he goes, what? I bet you worked on your project around Christmas. He goes, yes, I did in December. And I said, you told your brain to leave the project next to Christmas because you were working in the December month and you were going to go back and get it, but you got distracted. He goes, yes, I did. And boom, there it was. And these stories happen all the time. So I'm so used to it. But he wrote about me in the Smithsonian magazine.
I read that article.
He said, how do you answer something like that? I mean, even I get surprised by my answers. And I tell people, how does it work? You have to follow the process. And people always say to me, I must make it seem easy, but it is easy to me now because I've been doing it for so long. And people always say to me, no, it's not there. It's not there. Little kids, not there. It's not there.
Yeah.
And I just constantly find things. So I guess I am my sister's freaky sister. I just get used to it.
It's a good thing, though. Everybody has to be that sometimes. I don't think you're freaky at all. I think you're charming and very interesting.
I think it's the field. I have to be honest with you. I really think it's the field because it's just amazing.
The field is amazing, but not every person who is a psychic is like you. And it's refreshing.
No, but I take it seriously. I love what I do. And there are moments where I'll just tell you a quick story. I had to work on a missing person case near Virginia Beach, and I showed up, and these two FBI agents said, "Could you come to my car?" And I was showing them where the remains are of these two poor victims of crime, and they actually said to me, "What the F do you think you're doing?" I said, "What?" He goes, "What do you think you're doing here?" I said, "I was asked to come down and I was given gas money by the family. They paid me to come down and tell you where the remains are." Okay, did you spy on us? Did you? It was crazy. I said, "What do you mean spy on you? How did you know to come right here?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" And he goes, "You walked the same exact path the canines walked." I said, "Well, then why didn't you dig for the bodies?"
There you go.
Because they're still here. And they go, "Well, we just don't believe it." And the bodies are still sitting there. All these years, they're still sitting there.
Now?
The feds, they're still sitting there. They're still there now. What happened was the property was naval property, and you are not allowed to dig without the permission of the Navy. And it was the Navy that does Department of Intelligence. So it was, I guess, you have to be very careful where you go and what you do. But what had happened was I had a dream to go to a certain location. I went there and I saw the arch. It was on this park, and I was told, go to this park. You'll see this arch. And do you remember I said everything is visual?
Yes.
And my magic word is show me, show me, show me.
Yes.
And the next thing you know, I see this arch, and then I got out of the car, I walked across the street, and I walked over, and I in a perimeter. I guess it would be like a 40-foot perimeter, and I said, right down there. They're right down there. I can smell them. I said, I can smell dead bodies. They said the dogs walk the same spot. That how would I know that? But they weren't nice. These were not. I had done some work for DEA, and they were not real nice FBI agents.
That is so frustrating because, you're there trying to assist them as well as the families. And I find that very disconcerting that they would be so rude. But we're going to have to take a quick break, and this is only going to be 2 minutes. And we'll be back right after this.
listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experienced Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Welcome back to Paranormal Experience Radio, and we are enjoying Ginette Lucas. We have been having so many conversations, and this one has been too good. Ginette, thank you so much again for being here. Hear more. I'm getting people in there, whatever you want to talk about. Anything you want to say.
Anything I want to say? Wow.
That's a little scary. No, I'm kidding.
It is a little scary. Well, I mean, if they want to hear some more weird stuff that I do give annual predictions, which I think is a blast. So I'll just tell you what I did a couple times. When I do main network, like morning drive shows, one time now this is good news and bad news. So when I do predictions on radio for major predictions, I do shock people. It is a semi-shock and awe, and it's not always good, and then sometimes it is good. I did a WRC show in Washington, D.C., and I said, all right, you gave me 10 predictions. You gave me 10 pointers of what you want me to predict. And you said, who is the next big celebrity that was going to die? And I said, do you really want me to tell you? And I said, well, I'm going to give you some initials, and I'm going to leave her name with the people at the studio. But I'm getting the name J.O. And I didn't really want to tell the public because I didn't want to break their heart, Jackie O.
Right.
And I didn't want them to know because, some celebrities are just so loved by the public.
And she was.
And she was also, oh my God, the widow of the president. I mean, it's a double whammy.
Yes.
I mean, even I now get touched by it because she was such a brave person. So anyway, I said, unfortunately, it's not good news. She's going to be very ill, and then she's going to pass. So that was one of the 10 topics. And then they said, I want you to tell us about sports. And so I was right on that when that happened within a very short time frame. And I'll just tell you what I do. It's really odd. I took the Russian method of taking my hands and the tips of your fingertips, you rub it across the front of the newspaper. That sounds so stupid and goofy, but if you do that, you say, show me what's going to be in the news tomorrow, or what's going to be in the news on the 18th of January, or show me what's going to be on the news. You close your eyes and you sort of do a semi-meditation on it. And before you know it, you can get information. So I touched the newspaper and I said, this is what's going to be in the newspaper regarding sports. And they said, oh my God, I don't know all these names. And I'm not a sports fan. They said, is this gentleman going to be in the back scenes of it was like a Redskin coach or something. Is he going to quit, or is he going to do this, or is he going to do that? And I said, no, he's going to the back. He's not retiring. No, he's going to retire. I said, I just told you he's not going to retire. Now, as goofy as it sounds, the problem is with predictions, you cannot alter them, and you cannot be misled by other people trying to coerce you to alter them.
Right.
So I'm really strict about that. So I tell people, this is what I'm getting, and I'm going to stick with it. For example, when it came up for Trump to win, I had a dream one night, and it was like God came down to me, and he said, you're not going to believe this. And they go, Trump is going to win. And that was in August. And my two friends said, no, he's not going to win. And I said, okay, I'm keyed into this. He's going to win. And I don't normally do politics. We know the outcome now. And I stuck to it. And I also have a couple of friends I call, and I tell them weird dreams I have. And I said, I had this weird dream. I'm going on radio. I have to give a prediction about something. So, for example, when they gave me the 10 subject matters for the radio show, the morning drive show, I said, okay, the next one is any kind of terrible or unique situations like plane crashes or accidents or anything that is covered across the news stations. I said, yes, there's going to be 3 major plane crashes. The listeners are like, what? And I said, one of them is going to be, I think they leave Chicago and they crash in a cornfield. The only cornfield I can think of is Iowa. I'm hearing the word Sioux. And they go, what? I said, Sioux. I just hear Sioux. And I said, I think I'm getting Sioux City, Iowa. And I had no clue there was a Sioux City. I mean, my mind wasn't on it. I said this, and it'll be blah, blah, blah airline. The next one is this one, and it will crash here. The next one is this one, and it will crash. And the next one is this one, and here's the plane. I did it all live and on tape, and all three happened. So then I started getting phone calls.
So this drive show, they're looking for bad news for your predictions.
Well, not necessarily.
Okay.
It was just, could you cover something that to help people? So now what I do is saying to people, like recently I was giving my sister a reading. She likes to check on her son and all that, and he's in Vegas. And it was 2 days before the Vegas shooting. And I was reading her, telling her, because what I do is I cover the 10 subject matters, just sports or this or that or whatever, lifestyle, career, boyfriends, money, that kind of thing, financials. And I said, I'm in Vegas and all these people are on the ground. And I almost threw up. And I said, no. She goes, what? I said, something's really wrong. It's at night. And I said, I don't know if I can do this. I said, I see all these people on the ground and I see trash and I'm really freaked out here. I said, I have to be wrong. This doesn't make sense. I said, this is really bad. I said, your son needs to stay out of the city, stay away. So, because, he's in Vegas, so they go to concerts. And I said, I can't, I got to stop. So I had to pull myself out of that one. And I did not air that one because I couldn't believe it. There's some things you see, like I just had a vision the other day because I was reading her and I said, oh my God, another terrorist attack. And I said, it's going to happen at a Capitol and it's going to be at a building the roof of the building is a rotunda and it's going to happen either during a holiday. And I stopped myself because I just thought I don't want to fuel the enemy or the terrorists to let them know they're going to get away with it. That's my equation in it. So my theory is, what can I do to change things? And I don't know. So there's some things that you tell yourself, just pray on it and hope to God it doesn't happen, or move on to another subject matter where you can make a difference or help a person. I mean, I have college students coming here regarding their career or regarding their romance or how am I going to get through financially. And, the biggest frustration I think with young people is that I tell them the path they're on, even though they're going to college, may seem good, but they're going to end up in another path. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah. I mean, for example, here's one. My nephew is in the military, and I said, you're not going to do what you think you're going to do. I said, whatever you're going into, and he was going to go into military intel. I said, you're not going to be James Bond. No, I'm going to military intel. He was enlisted. And I said, it ain't happening. Even for officers, you're not James Bond. I don't give a darn who you think you are. You're not James. And I said, it's not happening. You're not going to stay there and you're going to move and move and move. And so he didn't like it. So the next thing you know, he got transferred to a ship. I said, you're not going to stay there. And he goes, that's not true. So now he's being trained to be a gunner on a military ship. And I keep telling him, you're not going to be there either. So, go ahead and fight it all you want. It's a dead end. You're going to eventually get into cop and canine stuff. And you're going to climb this really weird wall, which means to me, he was thinking Navy SEAL, but that's not happening.
Climbing a wall.
Yeah. Climbing a wall is you have chosen a path that is very tough and you have obstacles in your way. You're going to climb it. Yes, you're going to get over it. So if I see him go from one side to another, it's like a translation. They're going to be successful. Same thing with romance. One of my favorite stories is I had a woman come in, gorgeous, and she said, I just can't find a guy. And I said, you will be married in blah, blah, blah time, about 14 months from now. Your future husband's initials are, and I'll say like TJ or TB or whatever. And she goes, what? And I said, yeah. I said, it's really weird, but are you on the personals? And she goes, yes, I am. I said, okay, this guy has an accent. And I joke with people because I try to give them examples. And I said, oh, it's guttural. Okay, so he's German. Had he been Australian, I would have said, hey, bloke, or something that would be common ground to feel comfortable with. Oh, I get it. And I said, this is German. He is living with his mother. Good guy, engineer, but a high-end engineer. So not a VP, but senior engineer. He is good looking, and he's approximately this tall, and he's got brown hair, and you'll meet him in the fall, and blah, 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 blah. And I gave her some more pointers. And she goes, you sure? And she goes, so she calls me in a week, and she goes, there are 3 guys on the internet that are asking me out that are German. I said, okay, it's the one that you'll know him because of this. And she went out on the first date with the first guy, and she goes, I didn't see that. I said, go to the second one. And she dated him, and she said, he had this thing you mentioned. I asked him about it, and he said, oh, that was a gift from his mother because he had some initials like TB. He said, I live with my mother because she's older and I like taking care of her and I'm single. He had brown hair, and he goes, oh, well, my real name is, and I had to give her 3 initials because I saw 3 initials. It was too funny. She married him, and they happily ever after. And of course, I get the sad stories where, women call me and I said, don't marry that guy. Please do not call me and tell me you married that piece of garbage. Or I tell guys, do not marry her. What are you thinking? I mean,
does that ever work?
Yes, I have saved people from major mistakes, and but I will not lie to you. I do laugh at them. I said, look, we are all in the same team. We've all made the same stupid mistakes. But if you do this, don't come back here and tell me you did it, because I'll say I told you so. I mean, people don't want to hear that they're going to screw up. It is what it is.
We all screw up, but nobody wants to actually be that person. Right?
No, they don't. It's humiliating. It's uncomfortable. It's sort of drama. I mean,
yeah, it is drama.
Yeah. I mean, I have a college student that comes here, and the college students are absolutely fascinating because they can come in and I can say, well, the next guy you're going to date is blah, blah, blah. I don't know if I'm going to be doing that because I'll say it's a guy in the military. I said, I see either Navy or Marine Corps. I said, his name feels like Alex. She got a phone call. Somebody wanted to set her up with this guy, and she didn't know his name. She went down to the beach, and he's working at the Navy Yard, and he's in the Marine Corps. And his name was Alex.
Oh, that's awesome.
It was too funny. I mean, I get stories after stories that are just fun. I mean, this week, for example, I have to find some missing jewelry. Okay, great. Somebody called, and they want me to find some file cards. I mean, I get crazy stuff. Every day is a challenge.
That's interesting because that's not something, and I mean, I have friends that do what you do, like I've said, and I try not to take advantage of those friendships. Every so often, one of them will call me and say, what is wrong with you? And I'm like, well, nothing, I'm fine. No, something is upsetting. Well, get out of my head,
Like, what are you talking about? Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm downstairs. I moved my office back downstairs, which I love being down here. But there are people who move things around while I'm down here. And I'm pretty sure I know who they are. But it's disconcerting when you're sitting there looking out the office door and the exercise ball just comes off the foosball table and rolls across the floor. Right? So.
Oh, yeah.
And I brought my desk downstairs this afternoon, went back upstairs and closed the door. And as soon as I closed the door and had walked into the kitchen, there were 3 taps on it, to the point that 2 of my dogs barked at the door. And I was like, it's not anybody. There's nobody there. It's okay. Back when I was down here all the time, I finally said, y'all can't do that because that's scary and you're upsetting my dogs. And y'all are related. This is who this is. This is who that is. Get along. Just check each other's stuff out. It's all good. And things calm down after that. But, I thought it was funny that I brought my desk downstairs after not being down here for a while. And they came up and knocked on the door like, are you sure you're doing this?
I think that the other side, which whoever they are, whoever wants the attention, can continue depending on if you talk to them. And
I don't. It's a rule.
Well, if you disclose to them that you're not allowed to do this and talk to them like they're a child, then a lot of times you can control it better. But then again, this is just a theory, of try this, try that, try this, try that. I've heard different psychics say different things. Sometimes I agree with them. Sometimes I don't. I'm able, people have called me about ghost hunting, and I said, well, I don't even have to come there. I mean, I can tell you where you need to be and what you need to address. Sometimes I get names and that kind of thing, but the market for ghost hunting is flooded by people working in the ghost hunting field. So I've left it alone because I told producers years ago, it's going to be the big thing. And they go, no, it's not. No, it's not. And now I told people, I said, well, treasure hunting is going to be, adventures are going to be like Sherlock Holmes or Davy Jones or Josh Gates are going to be the next big thing.
Right.
And they go, no, that's not going to happen. You can look, when I was younger, I used to look 5 years ahead. And I said, in 5 years, this is going to happen and this is going to happen and this is going to happen. And boom, it's here. It's 5 years now and it's here and it's great. Like the advancement to breast cancer. We have come 1,000-fold on breast cancer. And the things we haven't come forward on is helping our vets.
Yeah.
I think that is really, what is the word I want to use? Negligent.
It is negligent because you should never expect more from people than you're willing to do to take care of them. If they're giving up part of their life, a lot of times giving up parts of their body to
absolutely
come back broken and to have instability issues because of the experiences that you put them through, then you take care of that.
I think it's
that's one of my soapboxes.
We have several things: the mental health, the vets, and then people that need a leg up. I mean, the holidays are coming. Remember to help your food bank. I tell people all the time, please give to the food bank.
Yes.
But especially the vets, even if you give them $5, you're buying a meal. Do you know what they do to them? They go to the shelter at night. They kick them out at 7 a.m.
Yes.
So they can clean the place, make sure nobody has lice. So what are they doing if it's 30-degree weather or 20-degree weather? They're on the street. They're on their own.
Well, I've seen them sleeping in Vegas in 110-degree weather on the pavement.
Yeah, because that's their life.
It is their life, and it's disgusting that that's how they're treated. I really do. I went to an event in Gettysburg, the Gettysburg Battlefield Bash. It was for the Pennsylvania Wounded Warriors Project. I will always support things like that. I love to lecture. If you get me there, I would never charge to participate with something like that. I just think that matters so much.
It's important.
Yes, it is. They have value and we don't act like they do. And that's very frustrating.
It's very heart-wrenching. It's like, these are our heroes and we're pooping on our heroes.
Yeah.
What happened? I'm just hoping, and I hate to use this word praying, but I'm hoping there'll be a change in time, but it can't be too long from now because we really need to do something now. Did you know this winter?
We should have done something decades ago, and we certainly should have done something when that director of the VA was found to be such a slime ball. Government employee, you can't get rid of them. Well, yeah, you can because someone did. It's just you have to take care of those who take care of you.
Oh, yeah. And, I mean, we're here. We have our freedom because of them.
Yeah, we do.
There is no question. I always tell people, please give to the vets. Like, people ask me about my dad, and, whenever we can help, we help. But we have limitations too. But the tragedy here is, why are we helping when our government has the funding to do this? That's what doesn't make sense to me. But I don't want to go on and on about that. So
I know, and we're actually out of time. I am so shocked because I've had so much fun. It just seems like we've been talking for 10 minutes. And I told you, I find a soapbox under my feet when it comes to our veterans. So it's a good thing to stop that. Thank you so much for being here. You have been fabulous. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And I'm sure we'll talk again.
Oh, yes. I am so excited to know that A, you were in Fate magazine, and B, that you are excited about the possibility of coming on pretty soon with me there. I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, I loved Fate.
It's a great magazine.
It's a great magazine. It covers crazy stuff. It covers everything.
It does cover everything, and the stories are true. I mean, there's some that are so out there that you go, really? But,
yeah, they are. But
they're sourced as a rule, and I find that fascinating too. But that being said, tell people how to find you.
Sure. I'm in Virginia, so I'm Eastern Standard Time, and I pretty much, you can email me on reachjeanette@gmail.com. So it's Reach, REACH, Reach Ginette, GINETTE @gmail.com, and do not call tonight. I can give you my number. 571 is the area code, 358-1444. 571-358-1444. And again, if you guys need an astrologer, my expert he's rocking, and Peter Marks, and you can call me and I'll give you his number. But no, I don't do astrology. You know,
I have a friend who is he's an interesting man. And he was on the show with me, and he did a whole astrology reading for me, and I had never had that before. I'm glad that I have the recording of that, because it's different.
Fascinating.
It is.
Yeah, it's really, I've had it where people call me and they go, Ginette, you matched up what Peter did. Yeah, but you got some other stuff too. So I'm happy.
Right.
And plus he has the moon, the stars, and the planets to give details, which is always fun.
That is always fun.
Yep.
Right now, I'm just going to tell people, don't miss Friday night with Ghost Talk Radio with 187 PI. Shelley Robertson is just an amazing person. That's going to be a great show. This will be the rebroadcast. If you missed it last week, you're going to love it. Then Sunday night, I will be back with Fate Radio. And my guest this week will be Frank Lee, who is the founder of Central Alabama Spirit Investigations and Research. He also is the host of Paranormalities and Ponderings, which is on hiatus right now. And he is the reason I got into talk radio. He's a brilliant developer of tools to use in the paranormal. And he is also really terrific at developing methods to use normal everyday things. Old school, and I find that fascinating. I do love my newbies, but I think going old school is fun too, and y'all will love him. We will see y'all then. Everyone, thank you for being here, and I hope you have a fabulous night. Thank you.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk radio.